We haven't spoken to the president or anybody about a pardon just yet. And listen, the president this morning said he had the power to do so. We hope he exercises that power in the right and just way.
That was convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer, David Marcus, who's been speaking a lot publicly, but he was speaking to reporters earlier today at the conclusion of Maxwell's second day of interviews with the Deputy Attorney General and former personal lawyer to President Trump, Todd Blanche. Well, maybe he wasn't speaking just to reporters, if you know what I mean. It's pretty clear that Maxwell and her lawyer are hoping for a get-out-of-jail-free card. But a pardon isn't the only possible advantageous outcome Maxwell could be hoping for. I'm sure she would love that. But it's also possible that she could be offered some other kind of deal, like getting her 20-year sentence reduced or even thrown out. And as I mentioned earlier, NBC News has confirmed that Maxwell, in fact, received limited immunity during her meetings with Blanche as part of a proffer or Queen for a Day agreement, as they're often called. Now, her attorney said Maxwell was asked about maybe 100 different people during her interview with the Deputy Attorney General. He also said she answered every question. But of course, we have no idea what that actually means in context. That's just what her lawyer said. Okay, joining me now is Christy Greenberg. She's a former deputy chief at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. And she's hosting a new show on YouTube called Courtside with Christy Greenberg. I'm very excited to check that out. We all wish we had law degrees right now. So I'm so grateful you're here. Let me just start with the idea that this was a proffer session. And I think a lot of people may just be learning that term for the first time. Most legal experts assumed it was one because Maxwell's attorney said she didn't assert her Fifth Amendment right not to answer questions that could incriminate her. But tell us about what it means, about whatever testimony she may have given over the last 2 days.
Right. So her attorney is not stupid. If he's bringing her in to talk and to have it be meaningful, he's going to want to make sure there's some protection for her. Mm-hmm. So really the agreement that I expect they entered into is an agreement which basically says anything she says can't be used against her by the government to charge her with a crime. There are certain exceptions to that, like if she lies, but for the most part, that is the case. The other thing I would expect to have happened, because this is very unusual, those agreements don't generally happen post-trial. Remember, she's already gone to trial and been convicted of sex trafficking, multiple counts of sex trafficking. That usually doesn't happen after trial. And so also I can't think of an example of where the Deputy Attorney General is conducting that interview. That is highly unusual, unheard of. And so he's not going to go there and waste his time. So what you often see is before this meeting happens, the attorneys talk and get a sense of like, well, what has she got? Is it worth my time to talk to her? Does she have anything? So Todd Blanche isn't going in there blind, I suspect. I suspect he has had some idea of what she was going to say beforehand. And look, she's also not stupid. She's not singing for her supper. She's singing for her freedom, right? She's looking at 20 years, the next 20 years in prison. So she knows she understands the assignment. She knows what she has to do there. And I'm sure that among the names that she's given are names that Donald Trump would want to hear. And so, whether or not that is credible is a whole other question. I would argue it's highly incredible. You shouldn't believe anything she has to say. She has every incentive to continue to lie as she has before. But in this meeting, I suspect if they spent 2 days, roughly 12 hours speaking to her, what she was saying was very much of interest to them.
I mean, you kind of just went straight to the point there, which is the point, right? Which is they were meeting for 2 days. She's not a credible witness. I mean, she's somebody who was lying, has been lying, has never even admitted she was guilty of wrongdoing at any point in this process. So it seems like we don't know what happened in there, just to be very clear, but just to help people understand. What they want is for other names, for her to be able to speak to other names, presumably that are people he would consider enemies or would consider big names that maybe are on the other side of the aisle. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I mean, that would make sense. Donald Trump's statements today, he's not really hiding what the game is here. He today talked about the fact that there would be a list. We were told first there was a list on Pam Bondi's desk, then there wasn't a list. Now apparently there is going to be a list of people that will include people like Bill Clinton, I think Larry Summers he mentioned, and some hedge fund guys. You know, he's throwing out these names. You think it has nothing to do, it's completely removed from what Todd Blanche is hearing. Remember, Ghislaine Maxwell isn't the only one that has no credibility here. Todd Blanche has no credibility here. Why? Because when he found out that Donald Trump's name was in the file, he went and reported that to Donald Trump. So he has no independence. That's not what you do in a criminal investigation. He's doing that because he has every incentive here to keep his job and to keep his boss happy. And so, yes, when he's asking about certain names, you think he's asking about Donald Trump? You think he's asking about people in Donald Trump's inner circle? No, he's asking about people presumably that Donald Trump would want him to ask about. I don't think Donald Trump's comments today can be divorced from what was going on in these interviews. I think it gives us a window into what was happening.
I mean, just to your point here, I mean, the deputy attorney general, who's the president's former personal criminal lawyer, normally there's an independence there going on. That is highly abnormal, as is Todd Blanche going to see her. All of that is highly abnormal. And Pam Bondi gave him a heads up he was in the file. So I think we should all assume that he is probably going to know what happens here. We don't know that for sure, but that seems quite likely here. You've mentioned, and I've been trying to digest Marcus's comments and Trump's comments. As you look at all of the comments today, which feels like a lot of people were saying the quiet things out loud in some capacity, what do you make of them? How does it all sit with you as we sit here at 9:30 tonight?
I think the comments I am most troubled by are some of the comments that you're hearing that somehow Maxwell is a victim. And I worry that we are setting her up to then get some kind of, whether it's a pardon or they're going to move for her to get a reduced sentence, that there's this idea now that we're hearing she was a victim. To be clear, she is not a victim. She is a monster. There was a trial. She recruited little girls. She groomed them and made them feel safe. And then she abused them herself. And she helped Epstein abuse them, right? That was the evidence that came out at trial. To sit with her at this stage post-trial is outrageous. It is a slap in the face to the prosecutors and law enforcement who worked hard to bring her to justice. It's an insult to the jury who did their civic duty and delivered that justice by convicting her. And it is a betrayal to the victims who bravely testified against her at that trial and deserved justice. To have that upended by this whole process and to now have a different narrative where somehow she's going to come across as, I don't know, somehow victorious in this, and that she's going to, not have that sentence stand and get some benefit. I mean, it's abhorrent. It's not just.
I don't think this point can be made enough. There are victims who also didn't testify, who are they're reliving this trauma. And she is being painted as in some way a victim herself, which is completely outrageous. Thank you for making that point, Christy Greenberg. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I really appreciate it.